The contents of this webinar have been inspired by PSFK research reports, and especially the surveys on the brand, retail, and operational opportunities in the metaverse. These reports are part of a collection of over 400 reports that share innovations, strategies, in brand, CX, and retail. And this library is updated weekly and can be found in the PSFK IQ Business Intelligence platform. Sounds good? Yeah. Take a free trial today.
Hey folks, welcome to PSFK's webinar, a primer on the metaverse. If you're watching this, you already know about the great opportunities, the unparalleled opportunities when it comes to metaverse and virtual worlds. And today we have PSFK researchers. We've got an expert on one of the world's leading brand organizations, and we have an expert from one of the best solution providers in the metaverse. And they're going to come today and help us understand how to activate those opportunities. It's a busy show, so let's get it started.
Coming up next, we have PSFK IQ researchers Lyons and Scott Latcher, who will help frame how our audience understands and thinks about the metaverse by unpacking consumer sentiment to identify key insights and looking at the experimentation taking place to highlight emerging trends in retail and marketing, as well as the tools and services underpinning the virtual economy.
Hey everybody, my name is Scott Latcher. I am the President of Research and Strategy at PSFK, and I am joined by my colleague Lauren Lyons, who is a Senior Strategist on my team. You want to say hello, Lauren?
Hi everybody and welcome.
We're excited to share some highlights from a recent series that we have created on the metaverse. Within the context of the 3-report series, we are looking at retail strategies, brand and marketing strategies, as well as kind of some of the underpinnings of the infrastructure and economy that will lead us into perhaps a metaverse future. We're exploring this from the standpoint of retailers, brands, and their communities, and we're going to dive in. Within the context of those reports in totality, we have probably 20 trends that we're looking at. Here, we just wanted to kind of zone in on these because we felt these were kind of the leading edge, most interesting to us, have some great examples that support them as well. So first off is this idea of avatar influencers. As mentioned, avatars are sort of the dominant way that people are representing themselves within the digital world. We have the parallel of social media influencers, we have brand mascots, we have celebrity spokespeople. These are the ways that people kind of associate brands and interact with them, the personality associated with them as well. And we're seeing sort of a combining of these two experiences, if you will, where companies are bringing those personalities to life inside of virtual worlds. We have avatars that are either embodying a real individual who is controlling and engaging with consumers in that way. And in some cases, again, at the leading edge, we've got AI avatars that are, sort of existing on their own, having their own personality and engaging with consumers in that way as well. So really interesting space to consider how your brand is personified and comes to life in various ways.
And so here we're looking at how NBA 2K players can interact with Jake from State Farm within the game. So insurance company State Farm actually turned their mascot, Jake from State Farm, into a character within this basketball-themed video game. Specifically, Jake is featured in the game's social hub, which is called The City. That's a place where players can gather before, after games, visit virtual storefronts, and just kind of socialize. And so inside the State Farm store, fans will find Jake there. He'll be wearing his signature red polo shirt, khaki pants, and players have this option to have a conversation with the virtual Jake and unlock his outfit for their in-game avatar to wear. And so kind of to bring this back into the real world as well, the brand partnership between the game and State Farm also features some real world events. They have had a live stream called the Battle of the Khakis, took place on Twitch, where the real Jake and other NBA 2K streamers competed against each other. And just looking ahead for State Farm, their plan is to continue using Jake's presence within the game to inform other activations looking ahead there.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that sort of piece that Lauren talked about, where they're thinking about this beyond just a presence within the context of this case, a video game that does have social kind of interactive components to it, and sort of spinning this out into the real world and having these sort of carry-on events as a part of this. The other thing that I think is important to kind of consider in any instance where you're kind of bringing your brand to life inside of these virtual worlds or these game environments is to figure out how exactly you're going to encourage consumers to sort of interact, and really that is the value that you're going to be bringing within the context of this space. And so again, the fact that they're able to kind of bring in other sort of celebrities into these live stream events and kind of play up their experience within the game is quite interesting. And again, this is already sort of well established for the State Farm brand to have celebrity athletes be a part of that sort of broader marketing mix as well. On sort of continuing on that gaming front and thinking about how that begins to come to life, perhaps in sort of outside of traditional games and more into these sort of metaverse experiences, things like the Sandbox, Decentraland, Roblox, we have what we're calling this idea of playable IP. And really, this is kind of thinking about how does a brand come to life in a dynamic way where they're not just fully in control of the experience, but they're sort of almost creating a platform that allows consumers to play around with assets, IP, other aspects of the brand, and become an architect, become an owner, become a manager, using those things to kind of bring that world to life in interesting ways. What I think is cool about this is we start to see environments where the participation of the consumers make the overall experience for everyone much more rich and engaging. And then depending on how a brand kind of plays around within the context of the space, there's learning opportunities there as well. So what are the things that people are gravitating towards? What are they using? What are they building? How does that inform the decisions that we make as a brand sort of moving forward?
So a really interesting example of here is Forever 21's virtual city, where players act as store designers and managers. And so to bring this idea to life, the fast fashion retailer partnered with online gaming platform Roblox and then the Metaverse creation company Virtual Brand Group to create what they're calling Forever 21 Shop City. So within this branded world, Forever 21's everyday fans, as well as their community of influencers, are able to create these customized stores of their own where they act as manager as they try to earn points and compete to become the top shop within this digital city. They can customize the store's design. They are in charge of stocking inventory. They can work different jobs within the store and then also assist customers. So along with operating the store, players can explore other parts of this city as well, which include entertainment venues, an obstacle course, a food court, and all of these offer the ability to kind of meet up with friends and socialize within the game and discover kind of hidden items as well. And so the cool part connecting this part to the real world is as Forever 21 collections drop in store or online, players can actually shop those same looks within the virtual city. They can add those looks as merchandise to their store and purchase digital versions for their avatars to wear.
Yeah, and again, I think thinking of this in a more holistic kind of point of view, where there is that crossover into the real world, is really interesting. How you simultaneously do product drops in multiple locations. The other thing that I think is you mentioned this idea of influencers within the context of this, Lauren, and I think one of the things I was reading was that the brand actually partnered with an influencer named Builder Boy, I believe, who already has a strong following within the context of Roblox. So again, sort of somebody that already is actively involved and engaged within this world can then bring his audience in many ways into this experience as well. So I think it's just very well thought through, and some cool aspects that are literally at play within the context of this. We've touched on this already as we talked through the first couple trends, but there's this interesting sort of hybrid nature of the way that these experiences sort of work at their best. We're not always thinking specifically about virtual only experiences, but also how digital plays a role within the real world. In this case, we're looking at already digitally savvy consumers shopping in stores and expecting to have some level of access to product information and content. Retailers are further kind of pushing the boundaries of what's possible by integrating digital entertainment, gaming, and other dynamic elements into that physical shopping occasion. So really sort of like layering a digital piece onto that physical experience and giving a different aspect of interaction, which is sort of site specific. So you need to be in this location in order to experience it.
And so here we're interested in how Nike's Nikeland Roblox activation is actually bringing the metaverse into their flagship store in New York City. So kind of building on its metaverse debut, the Activewear lifestyle brand is actually connecting this activation in store through an augmented shopping experience. And by leveraging shoppers' mobile phones, they're actually able to activate this Nikeland portal within the sales floor. So in-store shoppers can connect to this basically like large display, use body scanning cameras that allow up to 4 guests at a time to play a round of what they're calling Roblox basketball. And so additional games can also be activated throughout the space by scanning a snap code. And the Snapchat lens allows users to alter their 3D avatar, tap into an AR-enabled round of Floor's Lava, and then other games as well that are featured within the Nikeland Roblox world as well.
Yeah, and I think what's also noteworthy here is the fact that Nike, within its sort of broader retail initiatives, already has the mobile device as a sort of key component of how shoppers can interact within the physical space. And so this behavior is sort of natural to kind of bring in other dynamic elements into that experience and create something a little bit more social, entertaining, interactive as a byproduct of that as well. Again, thinking about the sort of hybrid nature of what makes these experiences so great, we have this idea that we want to touch on, which is called cross-world commerce. This is sort of anticipating a future where consumers are spending more of their time within metaverse worlds, working, playing, living, shopping, maybe not living, but interacting, let's say. And so thinking about how shopping experiences are not just digital only, but how you can actually shop for something in a digital space and then have that product delivered to you in your real home. So buying something in a digital world, having that delivered in real life, really kind of interesting crossover. And again, it's almost like the next iteration of what e-commerce can be in a sort of immersive 360-degree environment.
And so looking at a series of trademarks from McDonald's, we're seeing a couple signals as to what their metaverse goals are going to be regarding a virtual restaurant. So going beyond ordering virtual food in a virtual world, the QSR chain is instead looking to connect that experience to the real world. So consumers within McDonald's metaverse-based location will be able to place an order virtually and then have items delivered directly to their door without ever leaving the metaverse, theoretically. So signaling these future virtual activations alongside this metaverse store, the food chain has also submitted trademarks for everything from entertainment services, such as like virtual concerts, to their own NFTs and more. So a couple interesting things happening here for McDonald's.
Yeah, I think in general, how commerce is layered into these experiences. And in this case, again, I think we always talk about seamlessness of experience. So we already see this sort of natural tendency towards social commerce where you're in a an Instagram feed or what have you, and then you can make a purchase without sort of leaving that experience. That sort of same idea carrying over into what could potentially be the metaverse. And in this case, having it connect to something that is a much more timely delivery. So within an hour or two, to have that at your door. Very interesting. As discussed, we think there's some interesting ideas associated with how ownership is being sort of thought through in terms of digital goods, specifically as we think about things like NFTs, non-fungible tokens, and what that potentially means in terms of how brands can recognize who their most valuable consumers are, and then utilize ownership as a sort of gateway into these membership-like experiences where users or owners have access to an ecosystem of various experiences. And again, those don't necessarily have to take place only in a virtual world. They certainly can, but they can carry over into the physical one as well. And a lot of experimentation that's happening in this space right now. And for me personally, where I think NFTs are the most interesting in terms of a brand hook, not just thinking about speculating in terms of investment, but really having value that's being created for consumers.
So for this example, we're looking at Venly's MetaRing, which is an NFT that functions as a membership pass to the metaverse. And so here, this is coming from blockchain technology provider Venly. And the MetaRing is a virtual wearable. It's an NFT that grants users access to cross metaverse experiences. And it was built on the gaming website Polygon. The NFT puts owners kind of at the center of the metaverse by linking access to experiences like events, discounts, and NFT drops across a couple different platforms. So after purchasing the NFT, which retails for about $1,000, owners are able to access different utilities across the network of Venly's blockchain and metaverse partners. And that includes Polygon, the Sandbox, and Alphaverse, and is expected to continue growing. So everything from, exclusive lands, events, discounts, different economies and games are actually accessible all through this one digital wearable. And so rather than kind of limiting NFT owners to one type of experience or one brand's perks, this is kind of an interesting way to see how companies and platforms are collaborating to kind of create a more valuable experience for those owners.
Yeah, and super interesting to consider what the sort of loyalty piece might be and how that exists. And, again, $1,000 is not necessarily accessible to everyone by any stretch of the imagination, but curious to see how this all works. Certainly the way that many are speaking about the metaverse is it's not a singular experience that's owned by anyone, but it's a connected set of experiences that happen across all sorts of different worlds and, sort of digital iterations, again, in the physical world as well. And so interesting to see how this sort of membership experience can kind of cross over and create sort of broader value as well. Again, thinking about digital goods and NFTs, thinking about what that means for product ownership experience. Today, we sort of, in a physical context, we buy a product and it's a static experience in many cases. Sure, brands can interact with users post-purchase. We're seeing connected products begin to sort of start to rethink what product ownership can be. But one of the interesting things within a digital-only space is that you have much more dynamic qualities associated with digital assets that can be reprogrammed or connected in various ways. And so brands, artists, designers are really starting to think about how virtual items can be updated and altered over a lifetime and create this interesting ongoing relationship with consumers. Again, rethinking what value and ownership could be.
So here we're looking at what is called the Rocket Factory by artist Tom Sachs, which is a collection of NFT rocket parts, each of which, once minted, can be built and launched in real life. So using Rocket Factory's virtual inventory of nose cones, bodies, tails, These rocket collectors are actually able to choose from over 1,000 different designs. Once they've selected all of their individual components, those components are burned, which removes those design pieces from the Rocket Factory blockchain, and that rocket is then minted. So after the minting process, owners just automatically become members of what they're calling the Rocket League. They receive a uniform, and they're able to then select the option to launch. And this is where Zach's team comes in to create a physical replica of their digital rocket and then launches that in real life. After that physical launch, whatever can be recovered of the rocket is then returned to the owner. They receive it in a custom display box along with a video recording of the launch. And so with the team behind Rocket Factory planning to open an HQ within the Metaverse, those Rocket League members can also expect to kind of gain early access to special events and perks going forward there.
Yeah, this one is super cool to me. I like the fact that, again, there's all these different components that are sort of working together here. But the real world aspect and the sort of collectability that then, you know, creates this one of one customized asset with the launch video and all of these different things, and then thinking about how that carries over into the virtual world sort of in perpetuity, I think is really cool. So again, that brings us to the end of this overview. Here we've touched on 8 trends as mentioned across the 3 reports: retail, brand, marketing, and experience, as well as sort of the larger economy and infrastructure associated with the metaverse. We have 20 plus trends, lots of amazing examples of brands and companies that are doing cool things within this space. And we're excited to have some further conversation with folks in the audience, as well as some upcoming experts that we're going to be talking to get their insights on all things metaverse. So thanks everyone for joining us for this portion.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Zach. That was a great presentation. I can see in the chat comments that we have a lot of engagement. Do check out the research reports that are behind it. Let's talk to Liz Bacelar right now and try to understand how brands think about the metaverse and their role within the metaverse.
Our expert brand side speaker today is Liz Bacelar. Liz is the Global Executive Director of Innovation for Estée Lauder Company and is working to develop NFT metaverse and emerging tech opportunities for their 30-plus brands in the US, China, Europe, and Latin America. Prior to her career in beauty, Liz was credited with powering the evolution of fashion and tech.
Liz, just to kind of get us into the conversation, and thank you so much for joining us. Talk a little bit about what your sort of thought process was and sort of moving brand side, moving into a corporation. What did you see as a opportunity at Estée Lauder?
Yeah, sure. So in 10 years working in the space, just like you guys do, like we've known each other for so long, working with brands, I never thought that I would go brand side, because my focus was fashion and luxury, and no one brand was committed enough to innovation to have enough activity for an entrepreneur like me to be busy all the time. And when COVID started to happen, you could almost see that slowdown of fashion and luxury, and then the acceleration of beauty. It was such an interesting moment to watch. And right before that happened, there was an acceleration of innovation in beauty, period. The brands, the top 3, they were really ahead. They were really investing. And when I look at the 3 companies, there was something interesting happening at Estée Lauder. There was this incredible leader that had joined about 3 years before and who had this vision of taking us into the future. His name is Michael Smith, our CIO. And when I met him, I knew this was an opportunity that I couldn't pass on. So this team, the Global Innovation Group, was created last August, and we work across all the brands, all the regions, to bring to life Michael's vision and pushing the boundaries of what's possible within such a large group. Like, this is a very large group. To be able to do things fast is a very interesting challenge. It's often used as an excuse, right, in other companies. But here is an opportunity. And as we talk about the metaverse, it's funny when people ask what's the secret to get things done. The answer is not usually what people think.
And well, I guess I'll hold on that because I'm curious to hear what your perspective is. But I want to just pick up on this sort of, because we PSFK have seen all this amazing stuff happening within the beauty space in general, and there seems to be the right consumer that is sort of being targeted, that has a lot of very savvy, digitally connected, etc. And as you think about either the beauty consumer or the consumer in general, relative to a lot of the sort of digital innovation that's kind of taken place, what are some of the things that you're kind of particularly paying attention to and how they want to shop, engage with brands, etc.?
Well, I think there is two kinds of consumers that we need to be thinking about: the consumers we don't have and the consumers that we do have. So it's very important to understand that distinction. The consumers that we don't have, they are the Web3 users. They are and I would hesitate calling them kids. It's not that. That is a cross age phenomenon going on. It's not as much cross gender as it will be. The amount of women is increasing by the minute. And often when we gauge how many women are in the space, they miscount it. Like when you ask how many gamers are there in the space, I game, but I never called myself a gamer. I never will. It's just not something women do in general. So they tend not to be as visible as they could be. So when you look at the space, you see where's the values of that space? What is the values driving the behavior and the engagement? And it's very interesting because that allows you to start understanding what this Web3 revolution is about. When people say decentralized, what is that really about? And you see that today. You see that in gaming, and then spilling over to now what's becoming social. Like a lot of games are becoming social media platforms, right? If you think of Roblox, which is something I like to share, today more one-on-one messages were exchanged on Roblox than WhatsApp. So is that a game? It's kind of crazy. And when you think about the importance of WhatsApp to your brand, which many brands do marketing on WhatsApp, do you do something on Roblox? And then you're going to say, well, hang on, Roblox doesn't have the consumer that I have, like our consumer. Maybe the consumer is too young. I'm not speaking for Estée Lauder. I'm saying in general, right? If that's the case for the brand. Well, I think I see that many brands forget that in this creator world, what we're talking about here, it's being your brand as a creator. Are you the influencer? Right. So some of the brands out there, our brands, when I look at all of our brands, I see them as influencers in their own rights. They have incredible brand stories. They have communities. They already have an ethos. They have values. It's all defined already. And they've been living that for years. So when they enter that space the right way, there's such authenticity around it. And when you see new people jumping in and creating projects to support a cause, well, we already have causes. We already have projects that we work on. And that's what I'm focused on. How can you drive our existing consumers into the metaverse with authenticity? And then how do you win over new consumers by playing their own values, by respecting how metaverse actually works? And I guess the last thing I would say is that, in case it's not clear to everyone, this is not an activation. Like here as the law, I thankfully I never catch anyone saying, "Oh, this is an activation." No. This is not what this is. This is a completely shift of marketing. Like marketing now should always ask for whatever it is that you have in your timeline. What is your metaverse strategy for this? It's not going to happen right now in 2022, but maybe by 2023, you should be thinking the biggest moments that you planning for your product, for your brand. What is your metaverse strategy? Like the metaverse itself, it's not, it shouldn't be a gimmick or an activation. It's the actual story, the actual product evolution that should be amplified by the metaverse. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I guess there's more of a permanence to the way that brands and companies should be thinking about it, and obviously learning and evolving as the space continues to shift and change and people's behaviors alongside of that. So I think that makes a lot of sense to consider that as part of this broader ecosystem of how you as a brand are engaging with your consumer in many ways. I love this idea that you just touched on, which is this kind of like creator idea. And I wonder if you can talk a little bit about that. I guess we have an audience that is folks at brands, folks at agencies, retailers. And so as you think about the big opportunities for brands within the kind of metaverse space, perhaps as it exists today, or as as we're thinking strategically into the future, what do you kind of see as the opportunities for companies to kind of get in there and start to play around in this space?
So this is all really big. It's so vast. It has never existed a shift in technology that was so big right at the beginning. When you break down what can you do in the centralized platforms, right? Platforms are controlled by corporations, and decentralized platforms like the Decentraland plan. The choice is just right there. It's just so much already. So what comes down to when you have a problem so big, or an opportunity so big, or challenge so big, you need to break it down to the smallest possible parts so you can start understanding and strategizing. So virtuality is one of the parts that I like to talk about. When you think about COVID, when you think about this conversation that we're having right now, we are not together in person in the same space. This is virtuality. This is very common right now. This is not, you're not even thinking about how special this is. It's not special. You Zoomed so many times in the past weeks, right? But 3 years ago, to many people, it was an unusual thing. I remember when I was running my agency, and we would try to have a meeting with our clients at Gucci or Shiseido in Japan. They would refuse. They would not join a Zoom call. If you want to engage with a French brand, if you want to engage with an Italian brand, you have to be face to face. Even with the British brands, they would take the occasional call, but to close a meeting or to kick off a project, you have to be face to face. No one would say that today. So that is gone. So in 2 years, the entire business landscape understood the concept of virtuality and for the extension of the physical and the convergence, right? So this is the key for you to understand that the physical and digital is converging. So physical and digital, the product, the physical product, but what is the digital identity of that product? Your physical self, you put makeup on it, you dress it up every day, right? But what is your digital manifestation of yourself? Right now, I'm here on Zoom. You could put a filter on it if you want, right? Could you be an avatar right now? Would you, if you were an avatar, would it be a representation that looks like you, like a Loom AI, or would it be a fantastical representation of yourself? Like I have this gorgeous multicultural woman. I'm already multicultural, but I got someone even more multicultural. Super punk rock, beautiful. She's my avatar. And sometimes I show up like that. And we're experimenting that. Spaces, like if you have a space, your physical space, how you enhance your physical space by recreating the pop-up, but how would you recreate it in the Decentraland? And I'm seeing brands recreating like in the same way, like 2 floors, like a store. It doesn't have to be this way. It could be completely fantastic. It could be whatever shape you want. It could be a planet. So it's rethinking what is possible. And you can't skip the steps. You can't skip the steps of thinking through what is virtuality for you, what is the convergence of physical and digital for you, and then understand, okay, should we start with centralized plays? If you have like a risk appetite that's a little on the low side, and then move to decentralized, and then take it from there. It's not about copying anybody. It's not about this brand did this, we should do that. That is a journey for each brand. Even with us, we have 25 brands. They are not copying each other. We are guiding them and understanding all the possibilities on the table, and they each created their own metaverse journey that makes sense to them. What you're going to see throughout the year, you're going to see a lot of announcements from us, and they are not leveraging the same partnerships or the same playbook. It's all specific, individualized playbooks that make sense for that business rolled out. And that's what I wish brand leaders take a moment to do. Unfortunately, it's not easy. We're very lucky that we have a team that do understand blockchain, Forget metaverse, forget gaming. Blockchain, remember, 10 years ago, this is old, this is not new. Your team needs to understand what blockchain stands for. Like, what is it? Like, whether you do crypto or not, take crypto off the table. What is blockchain? And take a moment to understand that, because that's the shift. That's Web3. This notion that things can be decentralized, the notion that currencies doesn't need countries, the notions that data could be, it's written forever, right? And how does that happen? And once that foundation is there and your team has someone that understands that foundation, you can move forward. I find it very dangerous to outsource the understanding of blockchain, which is the foundational pillar for all this conversation, to an agency. You don't have to strategize on your own, but to take a moment to educate yourself on the basics, I think it's crucial. It's worth taking a moment and letting others lead until you catch up. And then you'll be able to lead on your own way.
That's all fantastic. And I think that really like kind of,
sorry, that was long.
No, that's great. I mean, this is all, I was curious too about some of the best practices. And, I think like having, just even that last piece, that sort of like having that knowledge in-house and not outsourcing that is so critical, because this is, I believe too, that something foundational like blockchain really is, is driving a lot of this. And I think it's interesting because the metaverse conversation does get wrapped up in things like NFTs and Web3 and, decentralization. So it's all kind of happening simultaneously, and they're all
it really is. It's almost like you have it's not almost, it is. You have this platform, blockchain is a platform. Everything's an offshoot of that. You could do crypto and start talking about how you're going to use crypto. Or you can say, no, we're not ready for that. Yeah, because of regulatory issues. So you bypass that. What's next? You have NFT, digital assets. That's what NFT is. How do you create a strategy around digital assets? Oh, it's not that? Okay, you can bypass that too. It could be about your supply chain. How can you use the blockchain for your supply chain? So blockchain is not going anywhere. If anything, it's going to become a foundational piece of everyone's business. Everything that you're hearing now is built upon that.
And when you look at the sort of shift that's happening around Web3 and around the sort of decentralization kind of conversation that's happening, what do you see as the shift for, I know this is a big question, but like, what does this mean for brands, or what does this maybe mean for the brands and their relationship with their consumer?
I think sky's the limit. It's time to redefine everything in the most creative way possible. It's a time in which the creators are being empowered, the consumers who are creators, the creative in our team, really working alongside with the technical people. Like, and that's what the beautiful thing of the work that we are doing. My team is very technical. So when we approach each one of the brands, we approach it with a lot of respect that we are not the creator. We give some possibilities on the table, but our goal is to inspire the creator to shape that vision, empower that creator to shape that vision, right? So what you're seeing right now is the consumer as the creator, is fellow organizations like brands, or sorry, not brands, causes that your brand supports as a creator. And then those different sets of creators coming together to co-create. So co-creation is king. And how can you do that in a comfortable way? The brands have been exposed to co-creation through social media, through working with influencers. So there's a little bit of that. But now influence is becoming something different. It's definitely not just about celebrities. Celebrities they still have some power in the space. They have a role that they're playing. And it's important, but there's a new celebrity that's emerging, right? CryptoPunks, it's a new celebrity, right? The Bored Apes are a new celebrity. So that is this, the projects as celebrities. It's a very interesting new kind of influence that we are seeing. And not all of the projects, but some of those projects are around causes. Other projects around roadmaps. So you can align with either a cause or roadmap. And we are doing that. We are looking into causes and roadmaps. They're interesting to us. and maybe at some point build our own project, our own roadmap, right? Those are things that each brand needs to explore and make decisions on when it makes sense to do that. It sounds complicated, but you need to enter it. Like you need to buy your own first NFT, like to start understanding. It is kinetic learning. Like you have to jump on. If anyone listening to this talk does not have a MetaMask wallet, why did you attend? Right now, stop. Download MetaMask on your phone. Understand what that is, because that is one of many wallets, but that's a good one to start your understanding. Like you cannot bypass those steps.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's such a great lesson. Is, you know, these are dynamic sort of, you know, living experiences, and there's a you know, there is some friction, but not a lot to get involved and start sort of interacting and building within these spaces to see how it all functions, and then taking a step back and looking at your consumer and your brand and figuring out how to sort of create value within that is quite interesting.
And Scott, watch yourself, watch your behavior on that space as well. You also the consumer. Like we forget that we also the consumer. We are such a large company, and something that we did that was great, we started watching our own behavior to learn from it, in addition to watching the space. And that's something that Clinique and Estée Lauder, to name a few, they have done so well. If something is a little difficult for you, watch that. So why is, if creating a MetaMask wallet is difficult for you, what was the point that was difficult? Does that mean that you should just look for projects that make that point very easy, and that brings you to third-party wallets, right? Parties that accept credit card, that doesn't take you into crypto. So everything that is hard on this metaverse world, it's not about you not being advanced enough, not being technically knowledgeable enough. It's about the learning journey. Watch your learning journey, and when you decide what to do, you need to cater to that learning journey. So we created different learning journeys. Some projects are more for advanced consumers that understand the basics of Web3. Others are not. Like the one that we did with Clinique last year was amazing. We launched 3 NFTs. It was about, we created an artwork called a collection of 3 called Meta Optimist, based on 3 of our hero products with Clinique. And we made it very easy. We made it flow through our loyalty program. We packaged as a contest. It was all very familiar. And our consumers were very excited to get this thing, to get this NFT. And at the end of the day, you got to remember something. That's going to be a point that this is not even going to be called NFT anymore. It's just a shift in behaviors, a shift in values. And this digital asset thing, you already have a lot in your life. You have your music, you have your photos, right? Now you just happen to have art. It's just a natural evolution.
Yeah, it's quite, and within the context of the Clinique project that or initiative, whatever we want to call it, that you did, I feel like there was an interesting kind of like membership component tied to the NFT, which I would love, because I think like for me, that aspect of ownership shifting towards this kind of membership piece is so interesting and seems to have a lot of value as we think about these things.
No, for sure. The starting point, before we delve into the loyalty, Scott, is the notion that right now we see that the metaverse world is largely male, right? We see that. I mentioned that changing by the minute, but it still is. So our responsibility to be able to drive inclusivity and to be able to drive more women to the platform is another value that it's factored into selection which project that we do. So we thought about this, we thought about loyalty, we also thought about inclusivity, and it's the guidance for Clinique, is what's guiding their decision. It's just so beautiful to see the impact that they actually have in the conversation in the technical, in the technology space.
That's amazing. And that's such a great point, and something that we're starting to see is like this representation, you know, all the DE and I stuff that is so critical in the real world, if you will, is even more so, I think, as we shift to these spaces.
Yeah, that was a focus for the clinic team. We decided to think about how can we create a journey that is around loyalty. And it's a great thing to do, because when you think about how do you connect with your consumers, the wallet, it's a very powerful way to be connected. You might not understand the wallet is a place that you can share things to, that you can drop things to. It's a communication tool. In your If you have an iPhone and you have your Apple Wallet, some of you added your vaccination card there. Like this data that's exchanged to the wallet, your boarding passes. And so if I'm not saying that it will happen, but if email as a tool of communication really ceases to have value because people are not answering the messages anymore, and social platforms, they shift to a point that it's hard to tell where the consumer is because there's so many, or they so fractured. The wallet could emerge as an interesting space of connection and communication for brands.
Yeah, that's such a great point. And I think it's so interesting because there is that, like, transaction with what can kind of happen as a result of that. Once you kind of have that connection with the consumer, there's a lot that can move on from there. This has been fantastic, Liz. Thanks so much for sharing all these thoughts with me and the audience. I know I learned a lot, and good luck in the year ahead.
Thank you so much.
That was great, Liz. Thank you so much for your time today. And so let's move on. And now let's talk to one of the leading solution providers who are helping brands, helping retailers create metaverse experiences.
Our expert solution provider today is Smithson from MetaVRse, the universal web-based 3D creation platform that enables anyone to leverage the power of spatial computing. With MetaVRse's proprietary code-optional web platform, retailers and companies can easily create and share interactive 3D experiences instantly.
Alan, welcome, and thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. I'm very excited about this today. We have some amazing news to share, and just super excited to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, let's dive into the conversation. We're going to talk about what it is that MetaVRse is offering for brands and retailers. But before we sort of get into that specifically, talk to me a little bit about what it is that you're actually hearing from the folks that you're speaking to that are potentially going to be your clients sort of now and in the future. What are they asking you about? What are they presenting as challenges to you? And, are they thinking about the metaverse opportunities in the right way?
Well, I think first of all, everybody's thinking about the metaverse. It's top of mind, everybody. Nobody wants to be left behind. Nobody wants to end up being the blockbuster of, new technologies. But really, there's a lot of confusion. What it is, what is Web3? Is Web3 different than Web 3.0? Is it all about blockchain? How does AI fit in? Where do I get involved? Where do I start? It seems like mass confusion right now. And from a brand standpoint, they don't want to miss the opportunities. They want to get in early. They want to, position their things. But where do you set your flag? Do you put your flag in Decentraland? Do you, invest into Decentraland or Sandbox or Roblox or Minecraft or Fortnite? Where do you put your investments? And I think, brands need to look at this in the short term in terms of marketing spend. Marketing is one of those things that you're always trying different things, right? So, when social media marketing came in, people dipped their toes. And I think this is the same here. Maybe start a little place in Decentraland, see what it goes like, make another one in Sandbox. Maybe experiment in Roblox if 13 to 18-year-olds are your customer base. I think there's all sorts of different ways to get started depending on who you want to attract. And we're building a global retail destination. And the question that comes up most is, how do you drive traffic, or how are you going to drive traffic to the mall? And I think that's the wrong question to ask at this point. At this point, we can just pay for traffic to go to anywhere we want. It's a web link. You just pay and people go there. The better question is, how do we make sure that experience that they get is safe, fun, exciting, and really creates an opportunity for them to invite their friends? Because it's not enough just to get people traffic there. Anybody can buy traffic now. How do we get people there that are excited, that want to share this experience and come back? we're not employing these, crazy tactics where, a notification pops up on your phone every 15 minutes. You have to want to go back. And this, I think, is the bigger question: is what experiences can brands build that capture the imaginations and attention of people globally that want to not just buy products for them, but also experience the brand in different ways and represent themselves as maybe they want to buy digital versions of the brand clothing or outfits or even objects for decorating their own virtual worlds or their avatars. So I think we need to really think of the experience of the guest first, and then think of, how to drive traffic there, because driving traffic is the easy part. Keeping them entertained and wanting to come back, that's the hard part.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, I love the two things that you really touched on there. One being that experimentation piece, which is so critical, where, we're all sort of in this like test and learn moment right now as we consider these platforms, and like what we think might work there might not actually be the case. Where your audience
have to be willing to iterate, and there's a book called The Messy Middle, if you want to read it. Innovation is messy. Some things that you think, wow, this is going to be the thing. You build a feature into a product and nobody uses that feature. This is the way innovation is, and you have to be willing to be wrong, and that's okay too. But if you get in early, you start making some products, some experiences, you realize quickly what works, what doesn't work. By the time you've figured out all these things that will work and don't work, your competition is already, they're just coming into it trying to figure it out, and you're already found value. And really, the path to value is what you're trying to get to as fast as possible, and that requires rapid iteration. So working with a company like ours, who's small and scrappy, really helps, because we can build something. If it doesn't work, boom, move on to the next thing. And it's not just about us evolving and innovating. It's about our customers working with us and having the trust that eventually we'll get there. We just need to all work together and try different things. And that's why having one big mall is actually pretty cool, because it's like a giant sandbox of, pardon the pun, but a giant sandbox of creative ideas. Some will work, some won't, but we'll all share the ideas together.
So let's talk a little bit about the Metaverse platform. Let's call it a mall, which is, it is the sort of form factor that you're kind of creating here. Tell me a little bit more about what you're building. I know we're going to see a little bit of that too. And why would a brand sort of participate in this space?
Well, I think I have to take it back a little bit, because the product that we're building is not necessarily just a mall. We built the mall, and the mall is definitely part of this. But really, we built a game engine, a 3D creation platform that lets anybody build these experiences all from the web, from a mobile browser, from a browser, from their desktop computer or tablet. And then you can disseminate those by simply hitting publish to all devices around the world. And this becomes really, really interesting, because you have this experience of now bringing people into virtual, world creation that have never done this before. And it opens up and unlocks the potential of this technology for everyone around the world. And that's what I find is super, super exciting, because, we're really at a pivotal moment where this technology is accessible to everybody. And I think this is something super, super cool and exciting. So actually, I'm going to share my screen for 2 seconds.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm going to show you actually the engine. So what you're going to see here, what you're able to see is the Metaverse engine. It's running in a browser here, and you'll see how the sausage is made. So let's say, for example, I duck in here. Now you can see the mall, right? So this is what a user would see from the camera angle of a user. But if you're building something, let's say, for example, I want to take this store right out. I can take the store out, I can make edits, and maybe I want to go inside here. Now I'm inside the store. There we go. So I can look around the store, and we'll walk around this in the mall as well. So you can start to see how the sausage is made. And so now I can take that store, I can just drop it right in, and away we go.
And one of the things that you talked about is, which I think is like pretty incredible, is, obviously in some ways the same as how you would think about a website, is there's room for testing, optimizing, updating very sort of seamlessly. So maybe we can talk a little bit about that that piece, and then we can see how it looks from the standpoint of someone who's actually sort of shopping within the context of that.
Sure. I think one of the great things about owning, because we have the whole tech stack, we not only make the editor, but it's all built on the web, and you can start to create connections between the business intelligence tools. So for example, if you're using Oracle's Maximizer, you can connect the backend. So if somebody clicks something, it records that click real time. So you can do real time A/B testing. You can create heat maps of where people walk around the store. And this is all captured. You know exactly if somebody buys a red shoe and you have 3 versions of the shoe, a red, blue, and a green, you now have the ability to know exactly how many people clicked the red one and bought it. You know, it's similar to e-commerce, but you now have this third dimension. You know where they're looking, you know where they're walking. And all this data is able to provide people not only better decisions from the retailer, but also better experiences for the user, because now you can hyper personalize those experiences. When I walk into a Nike store, I don't necessarily need to see all the women's clothes because I'm not shopping for women's clothes. You know, maybe I have an option to do that, but maybe when I walk in, it recognizes, oh, Alan, we know you like these types of things, and it populates them all in the stores for what I like. I think also being able to create experiences where, let's say, for example, if you come to the store 5 days in a row and you find this little gold coin somewhere in the store, or you find this Easter egg, you get an invite as an NFT to a physical real event or a digital event. On a different floor or different venue. I think the possibilities are endless for brands to create customer loyalty in ways we've never been able to do from 7 billion devices. You know, our mall is 100 stories tall. And, you know, we had to put a limit on some things because the metaverse is really unlimited. So we just put 100 floors. Each floor is 100,000 square feet, upgradable to 1 million square feet. So when fully built, the mall will be 100 million square feet. This is roughly 8 times larger than the world's largest mall, which is about 12 million square feet. To put in perspective, the Dubai Mall is the largest in the world right now. The entire city of Dubai gets 21 million visitors per year. Our system works on 7 billion devices, potentially all over the world. So the sheer scale of being able to have anyone in the world, anytime, 24 hours a day, descend on a shopping location and enjoy brand experiences is really powerful.
Yeah, I really love that sort of idea of that third dimension that you spoke about, and what that sort of enables within the context of that browsing experience, which, to your point, can go beyond just sort of a shopping occasion and can be a little bit more fun and interactive with a reward component potentially tied to it, or whatever the case might be. Why don't you?
Somebody pointed something out. They said, when you shop for something on Amazon, it's more like procurement. If I need something, I go on Amazon, I type it, and it comes the next day. There's no joy in that. It's not, I just need something and it comes to me. I'm not shopping. I'm not enjoying a brand experience. I'm just looking for the 5 stars and then order something. So I think, what we're trying to do is attempt to bring back the visceral experience of shopping with other people, but in a digital world. So
why don't you give us a quick little snapshot from a shopper point of view about what people in the audience can expect as a sort of avatar interacting here?
Sure. So the avatars will have legs. So just note that. And, from an avatar standpoint, you'll be able to, decorate your avatar with earrings and lipstick and eyebrows and hair and shirts and clothes and watches and nail polish, all of the things. Your avatar will be a personification of you. And, as you see here, I'm able to look around. And we use the same mechanics as in most video games: WASD on a computer, left thumb for motion on a mobile phone. And the crazy thing is, this is all running on a web browser. And I think that is really important, because with one link, you can invite your friends to come and take a look at, Super Mario, for example. And just to preface this, none of these brands are confirmed in the mall. We'll be making our brand announcements soon. This is just for demonstration purposes.
Got it. And what are some of the things that you, from a sort of experience point of view within the context of the store environment? Obviously, we're seeing, these sort of shoppable 3D environments, 3D renderings of sort of larger products, if you will. What are some of the things that are kind of dynamic within the space
Sure.
that you're going to be launching with, and or things that you're kind of considering in the near future as well?
Certainly. So what we're doing now is we're just showing, what's possible with the different objects. But say, for example, I could come up to this shirt and I could click the shirt and then change the colors, maybe, get a little panel of information, maybe watch a little video. All of those things are possible. We just haven't added them into this demo yet, but you'll be able to, to walk around the store, go check different things out. You'll be able to interact and see different experiences. So maybe I'm in this store here and I can click this button and it takes me into another experience. So really, we don't want to limit the imaginations of the brands or the attendees going into the mall. What we want to do is give people kind of basic guidelines for here's what a store could look like, and then let the stores and the brands and all the the designers, let them really get in there. So when I go in the tent and now I'm on the side of a mountain, type of thing like that. So I think what we've shown here is a very, very great beginning to something amazing in a mall. But I think, at the end of the day, there's no physics, right? Like there's no consequence of jumping down there. I didn't break both my non-existing legs. So you can go into stores, you can make experiences. Right now, the reason why we didn't make them all crazy and laser beams and things is because we wanted to start with a very what could be possible. Here's a store, you can walk around, you can interact with products, you can try different things, but it's not too far out there. People can understand and they can visualize this and they get a sense of what's possible. For example, if I go over here, you'll notice there's no products in the store here, but as I get closer, the products load. So by using dynamic loading, we're also able to increase the amount of things that are available within a virtual mall in the store. And you can start to see that the quality we're able to get in these renders is pretty close to photorealistic.
Yeah, it's incredible to see the reflectiveness of the metal as well.
Yeah. So
and I like this notion that you're sort of putting out there, which is, essentially that, you very much are willing to collaborate with the brands that are going to be participating within these spaces and, are open to sort of seeing what that level of creativity that they bring to bear within the context of this platform and how that comes to life, which is great.
I think that's when the magic starts to happen. Like we can set, what our vision is, and we made it look like a normal mall. We just, kind of took some stores, made them look like it. But I think when brands and their creative agencies and their teams realize how easy it is to drag and drop these things and build these, I think the sky's the limit here. I mean, we're going to see stores that don't look like stores. You're going to, go under the ocean and look for pearls or something like this, right? So I think it's really, when you build a creative platform for people, you never really know what they're going to do. And that's what excites me about this, is that we built a low code platform for anybody to, to build these experiences. So now it's up to the world to see what they build.
What's going to be the sort of like tipping point to get us to that sort of like next level of adoption where this becomes much more mainstream in terms of how people are using this in their lives?
Well, I think we're already kind of there. I mean, you probably know more than most. We spend hours and hours on Zoom, and the average American spends 7 hours and 11 minutes on the internet. So I think we're already kind of into that thing. Now it's just, how do we make it a better experience, a more human experience, where there's people there together and it's not just staring at a screen, it's not just passive, but it's active engagement together. And I think that's where this really unleashes, the power of gaming, but for everyone, because not everybody's into gaming. Maybe you just want to go and have a nice relaxing time at the mall, walk around with your friends. I think this opens up enormous worlds of opportunity for brands, but for also people. And I think in the future, what we're working on is, we've got the mall, we're going to have office towers where you can go in and work and meet with, colleagues. And then we're also going to have condo towers where you can buy articles in the mall and, your NFT collections and put them into your own condo. So I think that's where this really becomes a true metaverse, where people can live, work, play, shop, and collaborate all in one platform, all on any device without any barriers.
Amazing. Well, excited to see where things go, and wish you the best of luck in sort of, continuing to sort of build and evolve what it is that you guys are offering, and really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us and share all these great insights with the folks in our audience. Thanks, Alan.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, guys. And you can sign up early for access to them all at MetaVRse, MetaVRse.com/mall.
I hope you agree that was a very insightful, engaging, refreshing, and informative session. Thank you to Scott and Lauren. Thank you to Liz. Thank you to Alan. We really appreciate your time today and appreciate everyone's time who contributed to the comments. Do check out the research reports. And if you like videos like this and you're watching on YouTube, you know what to do. You need to make sure you subscribe so you can get notified every time we put up a new video. Appreciate you coming today. Hope to see you at the next webinar.
The contents of this webinar have been inspired by PSFK research reports, and especially the surveys on the brand, retail and operational opportunities in the metaverse. These reports are part of a collection of over 400 reports that share innovations, strategies, and brand CX and retail. And this library is updated weekly and can be found in the PSFK IQ Business Intelligence platform. Sounds good? Yeah.